What's up, Mets fans, and welcome back to the True Mets Talk podcast. It's your boy CP. It is February 16th, 2024, and I figured what better way to start off all of our Fridays than talk about two Mets prospects that every Mets fan should be watching out for in this coming spring training. Both of these players coming off of relatively down 2023 campaigns for their standards, looking for a full resurgence in the 2024 season, and those names are Kevin Parada and Alex Ramirez. Before we get into these Mets prospects, make sure to hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and hit the comment section down below as it pertains to these two names that we're going to be talking about in this video. As always, follow me on all my social media handles at CPNYSPORTS on both X and Instagram for more Mets talk and more true Mets talk podcast updates. Without further ado, let's get into today's episode.
You are now watching the True Mets Talk podcast, talking New York Mets baseball 24/7, 365, with your host, CP.
All right, a little bit of a disclaimer before we start off talking about Kevin Parada. I aim to always be fair and objective when I talk about any Mets prospect in relation to their pros and their cons, weaknesses and strengths, and where they are simply projected to be coming up within the Mets organization. So that is no exception with this episode, and I am hoping to provide more insight into these two players as they head into 2024, because I feel like the consistency here amongst the Mets fan base when talking about Kevin Parada and Alex Ramirez are that they are very down on both of these guys because of what happened in 2023. And I'm here to sort of shed a little bit more light on that. Maybe people do have points, but also give the other side of the fence and also talk about why they definitely are in line to have better 2024s than they did have 2023s. Going into Kevin Parada here, apologies for the disclaimer to start off. Number 9 overall prospect in the Mets organization per SNY's Joe DeMayo heading into 2024. Obviously, the Mets were able to draft Kevin Parada in 2022 11th overall because they had the compensation pick from the failure to sign Kumar Rocker in the previous year in 2021 after they had drafted Kumar Rocker. They landed Kevin Parada, who is an absolute stud at Georgia Tech in his first 2 seasons there. Freshman year at Georgia Tech, hit 318 with 9 home runs, and then really caught the power surge in his sophomore year before getting drafted to the New York Mets. Hit 367 and 26 home runs, hit 26 home runs in his sophomore campaign. The bat has always been the strength of Kevin Parada's game. The defense needs a little work, and we saw that last year in 2023. 72 of the 105 total games he appeared in, he was behind the plate, and he committed 10 errors at the catching position there. A lot of scouts are still wary on his defensive capabilities. Understandably so, he is still young, 22 years old, but he does have some fine tuning to do back there, especially as it pertains to not only his arm strength, but the accuracy of his arm when runners are trying to steal on Kevin Parada. Now, you see Kevin Parada's offensive numbers in the totality of his 2023 campaign, having appeared in all 3 levels, A ball, high A ball, and double A ball to round out his 2023 season. 105 games total, 248 batting average, 14 home runs, 63 RBIs, and a 751 OPS. And a lot of Mets fans, especially before Francisco Alvarez came onto the scene with the Major League Club last season, were very high on Kevin Parada when he was drafted out of Georgia Tech, saying that the catchers that the Mets possessed in their farm system were absolutely top tier. Obviously, Francisco Alvarez, me dropping a video on him earlier on this week. Go check that out in the description down below. In potential extension talks with the New York Mets after his phenomenal rookie campaign. Kevin Parada is a little bit blocked by Francisco Alvarez, which is a lot of Mets fans' concern where does he fit into this team? But also, as it pertains to his offense, he did very well in high A ball in 2023, hitting 265 with 11 home runs. But when he got promoted to double A is where he really struggled. And I feel like that was the start of a lot of Mets fans starting to write him off and becoming less excited about him. So I'm here to sort of prop him back up and say that I am not confident in judging his offensive abilities through only 14 games that he hit 185 in with double A Binghamton. And I know coming into spring training here over the last couple of days, we've seen some preliminary snippets of his swing, a lot of pre-pitch movement. A lot of Mets fans and self-proclaimed hitting gurus don't like where his hands are, don't like how open his stance was. And I will say that, one, it doesn't look pretty, understandably so. Two, these are drastic differences than what we originally saw at Georgia Tech. That's number two. But three, why are we judging the kid off of a couple of swings in batting practice to start off spring training? That is where I don't understand that. Like, I understand that this is only the only things that we have to go off of right now. And secondly, we have to go off of the 2023 numbers, which for Kevin Parada standards really weren't great. I think that we're sitting here and having a different discussion surrounding Kevin Parada and our confidence level in him if he went out there in double A and killed it, or at least produced something along the lines of what he did in high A ball. But this is a 22-year-old catcher right now that we're talking about that is trying to find his groove defensively. Like I said, the offense is the least bit of my worries with him. That's supposed to be his strength. And you can't tell me that that just automatically disappeared because he struggled in double A in a small sample size. But his defense and how he projects to the major leagues as a catcher definitely does worry me. With what I just talked about, with what the scouts and the experts are saying, and also coupled to the fact that positionally, he does have a lot of things working against him. Francisco Alvarez has already made his presence. He is going to be the franchise catcher. So it's very hard to imagine that Kevin Parada will come up and take that away from Francisco Alvarez. I don't think any Mets fan is expecting that right now. A lot of murmurs around the Mets fan base of potentially making him a first baseman, depending on what happens with Pete Alonso. We haven't seen any sample size out of Kevin Parada at first base. And I think that is a little bit less likely of an outcome. I think that, one, we obviously should be re-signing Pete Alonso. But two, if somehow Pete Alonso walks, Mark Vientos is an internal candidate to fill in if he does well in 2024. And you also have a couple of free agent options out there. One name that I really like is Christian Walker, but I'm getting ahead of myself here. We're not talking about that offseason just yet, to sort of address that first base position. And three, a lot of scouts were talking about Kevin Parada in the sense that organizations, to really tap into that offensive potential that we all saw in Georgia Tech, would like to make him a full-time outfielder. Now, I'm not sure how feasible that is, but even if the Mets did pursue that route, the odds are still ever stacked against Kevin Parada's favor in trying to fit somewhere on the MLB diamond in Queens. Because the outfield is night and day difference depth-wise than what we saw just last season. Brandon Nimmo is on a long-term contract. Drew Gilbert is very ready and will be coming up at some point in 2024 if I had to guess. Ryan Clifford is right there as well. And you have a couple of other outfield candidates. The next name that I'll be talking about as well is looking for a resurgence, Fairly Young himself, looking to get back into that picture of being a serious consideration for the future of the Mets outfield. So Kevin Parada defensively has a lot working against him. But I'm not going to sit here and jump to conclusions that his offensive game is not going to translate at the next level. That is going to be seen, and that remains to be seen in 2024. So that is Kevin Parada in a nutshell. Like I said, I understand a lot of people aren't talking about him or aren't talking about him in the same light as they were when the Mets first drafted him. He didn't have much sample size to go along with him in the Mets organization in 2022, the year that he was drafted. So 2023 was really, in totality, the first year we really got to see an extended version of Kevin Parada in a minor league system. And I think that a lot of people were disappointed with the numbers you see on your screen here in those 105 games. So he's looking for a resurgence. He got a spring training invite, a non-40-man roster spring training invite, and we will be seeing him in spring training action. I am excited to see Kevin Parada, and I am even more curious about where the Mets are projecting him to be in this system. Because let's face it, given the factors that I just named, a trade of Kevin Parada to bolster the rest of your roster, whether it's an MLB-ready hitter or maybe some starting pitching help next offseason, is not off the table, especially if Kevin Parada has a good 2024 season. The Mets' system, and I apologize, I did just say Mets'. I'm still trying to work on that. The Mets farm system at the catching position is one that is plentiful. Francisco Alvarez is already up. In addition to Kevin Parada, the Mets just signed the number 6th ranked international free agent prospect, Giovanni Rodriguez. Ronald Hernandez coming over in that David Robertson trade this past trade deadline, and a couple of other catching options out there as well that are in the Mets farm system and right up there with Kevin Parada to make him a little bit more expendable. And that is just the pure honesty of the matter. But nonetheless, I'm looking forward to what he does in 2024 because he will be in this organization and he will be given every ample opportunity to prove what he has. I want to see how the AA numbers differ than what they were at in this 14 games in AA in 2023. Moving on to the next name, talking about maybe a little bit of a unique stance, pre-pitch movement like we were talking about here with Kevin Parada. Same situation applies here to Mr. Alex Ramirez, who will also be seeing in spring training just a week away. Now, Alex Ramirez going into 2024 is Joe DeMayo's number 18 overall prospect in the Mets farm system. And before that trade deadline this past season in 2023, where the front office decided to mitigate the rest of the season and bolster whatever they could in the farm system, bringing in Drew Gilbert, Luis Angel Acuna, Ryan Clifford, Marco Vargas, Ronald Hernandez. Going into 2023, before all those names came into the picture, Alex Ramirez was actually ranked number 4 in the Mets system by Joe DeMayo. So he slid after the 2023 season a whole 14 spots down on Joe DeMayo's list. And shout out Joe DeMayo, very well respected. Obviously has his own podcast. Make sure you go check that out. And he does talk a lot about these prospects. Alex Ramirez is still very young. He was signed to the Mets in 2019 coming out of the Dominican Republic. He was the number 26 ranked international free agent at that time. And the Mets signed him to a signing bonus of an excess of $2 million. There's $2 million and some change. Now, an underrated fact about Alex Ramirez as it pertains to 2023 versus 2024, and talking Mets with Rob on our live stream this past Wednesday. If you missed it, go check it out. We were talking about a potential 26-man roster in spring training, and Alex Ramirez's name did get brought up toward the tail end of that stream. Rob pointed out a very big fact that over the last year, Alex Ramirez has put on around 25 to 26 pounds. Coming into 2023, he weighed in around 170. Now he's at 196 going into 2024. I'm curious to see how that impacts his speed defensively and on the base paths. You can see speed is one of his main characteristics that he definitely excels at. That is his bread and butter. That allows him to profile as a primary center fielder, but with that speed, he can play any 3 outfield positions. So the defensive side of the ball in contrast to Kevin Parada, is not the worry with Alex Ramirez. It's how the bat projects for him in comparison to what we saw in 2022 versus 2023. Or Kevin Parada. Alex Ramirez had a great 2022 in A ball and high A ball. He was a prospect that the Mets wanted to start off in high A ball in 2023 in hopes that they saw the consistency and they were going to put him up in double A ASAP in 2023 if he showed that consistency, but he didn't. He never took off in 2023. You see here the numbers: 120 games, 221 batting average, 627 OPS, which is dreadful, only 7 home runs, and he did show off the speed with 21 stolen bases. Like I said, that is his strength. But a night and day difference for Alex Ramirez in 2023 than what we saw with the bat in 2022. How does he bounce back in his 2024 campaign? Because this prospect, Alex Ramirez, might be one of the most disrespected Mets prospects in the entirety of the Mets farm system as it pertains to rankings, as it pertains to the overall fan base, just completely forgetting about him. He was 20 years old in 2023, and he's heading into this season as a 21-year-old prospect. To write him off after a relatively down 2023 campaign is absolutely insane to me. And that goes for any prospect, not just named Alex Ramirez. Any prospect. Kevin Parada, same thing. If we're talking about extended failures, right? 2 seasons plus, maybe a season and a half, 2 seasons plus. Okay, I get it. Time to start worrying. But to not be able to have a bad season, I get it. The time is ticking. The clock is ticking. You have to see what you're going to get out of these guys at a fairly early age, or at least that's the goal. But this kid is still 21 years old at the end of the day. I think a lot of people still forget about that. And this is a kid, Alex Ramirez, that was in trade talks when the Mets were winning all those games in 2022, and it was time to bolster their lineup, and they were in talks with the Cubs for Wilson Contreras. Alex Ramirez was a name that kept popping up in reports within the fan base that, hey, this is the selling point of what we'll give you for Wilson Contreras. And now he's being completely written off. So, like I said, how is he going to bounce back? 2024 is going to be a very big year for Alex Ramirez. I'm expecting big things. Defensively, he projects very well. Solid defender, very versatile defender. But we saw the offensive metrics stagger in 2023. A lot of scouts saying that he has a very unique swing path, a lot of the same pre-pitch movements in his load where he has his hands. A lot of the same moving parts that Kevin Parada does that make it a little bit harder to project him being successful against cream of the crop pitching. So I encourage you all as viewers to not only go back and just to watch some highlights, see some face value statistics. Obviously, I've been giving you the surface level kind of stuff here. I can definitely get into more numbers if that's what you all want. I'm giving you all a brief synopsis here in about a 20 to 22 minute video surrounding these two guys. If you want more, let me know. But I figured not many people are talking about these two prospects. Not many people. They've written them off. They had down 2023s. And all of a sudden, it's like they don't exist anymore. So I'm here to talk about them. Watch these two players during spring training. We'll see how they bounce back once they hit the minor leagues. And we'll go from there. Kevin Parada, rounding this all out, Kevin Parada, his future status with the Mets is a little bit more in question than Alex Ramirez is. Alex Ramirez is a guy that I know for a fact the Mets have full confidence in moving forward, or at least are taking the shot on, because he was scheduled to hit the Rule 5 draft if the Mets didn't pick up his contract. I believe it was around November of 2023 after the season ended. They had a decision to make. Were they going to potentially risk losing Alex Ramirez in the Rule 5 draft, or were they going to protect him and put him on the 40-man roster and see what he's got moving forward? And they chose to pick up that contract and put him on the 40-man. That shows me they are confident and they still see that untapped potential that I'm talking about in this video. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on these two players, Kevin Parada and Alex Ramirez both. What are your thoughts? What are your opinions? What do you like? What do you not like? And how can you see them fitting in within this Mets organization or not? Or do you think that they're trade candidates? Let me know in the comment section down below. Hit that thumbs up. As always, I definitely appreciate it. Subscribe to the channel. Description has a bunch of links. Make sure you go check them out. Watch those videos after you're done with this one. Maybe if you need to watch this video one more time to fully get a grasp of these two prospects, make sure you go ahead and do so. Whatever you need to do. I want to know your informed opinion of these two players. Follow me on all my social media handles at CPNYSPORTS. Some shameless plugs, but I can't get out of here before I do it. As always, it's been another episode of the True Mets Talk podcast. Keep rocking with me. Keep subscribing. Tell your friends, tell your family. Until the next episode, peace.
Thank you for watching the latest episode of the CP New York Sports Pod. If you enjoyed this content, make sure you hit that thumbs up, comment your thoughts and opinions, and use the lower right-hand button of this video to subscribe to the channel. Thank you.